Hello again. Today we're going to be looking at biology and a very interesting topic in biology, and we will be talking about hormones. We'll be discussing about hormones. We have two main types of hormones based on living organisms. We're going to be talking about plant and animal hormones. We're going to be looking at the both of them. Now, please also understand that hormones also play a major role in the regulation of the internal environment. In our video, when we're talking about regulation of internal environment, where we looked at the introductory part of it, defining homeostasis, osmoregulation, we also mentioned some of the organs that are actually needed for maintenance of a fairly constant internal environment in mammals. We mentioned the kidney, of which we discussed broadly about the kidney. We mentioned the liver, we looked at the functions, we looked at diseases affecting the liver. We also mentioned the skin. And then today we're going to be looking at hormones. We're going to see some of the roles they play, some of the functions, and what happens when they are deficient in an organism. Now, in our content for today, we can call it our specific objective. We're going to be looking at what hormones are, the definition for hormones. We're also going to be looking at the general functions of hormones. We are also going to be looking at endocrine glands, their locations, the hormones, they secrete, their functions. We're going to be looking at over-secretions and under-secretions of these hormones. All right? And we're also going to be talking about plant hormones. We're also going to be looking at plant hormones. Now, if you're actually ready for this particular class, let's begin. We're looking at definition of hormones. Definition of hormones. Now, hormones can simply be defined as chemical substances that are secreted in small quantities. They are secreted in small quantities by endocrine glands, and they stimulate the activities of other organs, or they stimulate activities of organs. Okay, I repeat, I said they are chemical substances. Please take note of that. They are chemical substances, and they are secreted mostly in small quantities. All right? And they are secreted by endocrine glands, not exocrine glands. Endocrine glands. And the reason why we said hormones are produced by endocrine glands is because endocrine glands are ductless glands. They are ductless. It means that they do not have ducts. It means that when hormones are produced, they don't pass through channels. They are just deposited in the blood, and the blood carries them to their target organs or their target site. So they don't pass through a duct. Just the same way we have secretions like the bile that is being produced by the liver. So when the liver produces the bile passes through the bile duct. Okay? So there is no duct in this case, no duct. All right? So in other words, what we're trying to say is that hormones are those substances that are produced by endocrine glands. Okay? Now, looking at the general characteristics of hormones. Number one important characteristics of functions of hormones is that they help in regulating the internal environment. We have mentioned them as one of the important factors or conditions for regulating internal environment in mammals. Number two general characteristics of functions is that hormones, they stimulate and control growth. In the course of our discussion, we're going to be looking at growth hormones both in animals and also in plants. Number three, hormones help in the development of characteristics of sexual maturity. Now, we're also going to be looking at that based on animals. Mostly we're using mammals as our case study. There are several hormones that helps in the development of the secondary sexual characteristics in both males and also in females. Number four, hormones are responsible for changes in the cells. Number five, hormones coordinate organs of the body to meet specific conditions. Now, these are some of the characteristics of hormones. We are going to be looking at endocrine glands. Now, remember we said in our definition, we looked at hormones as chemical substances that are produced in small quantities by endocrine glands. Now, endocrine glands are actually, you can call them organs, or they can still be called glands that secrete hormones. Now, we have about 6 of them I want to share with you. In some books, they have more than 6, but I want to talk on just these 6. Number 1, we have the pituitary gland. Number 2, we have the thyroid gland. Number 3, we have the parathyroid gland. Number 4, we have the adrenal gland. Number 5, we have the pancreas. Number 6, we have the gonads. Now, these are the 6 main endocrine glands that is found mostly in mammals. In fact, especially in humans. So we have the pituitary down to the gonads. Now, let me begin with the first one, which is called the pituitary gland. Now, looking at the pituitary gland, where is it located? Now, the pituitary gland is located at the midbrain. In our subsequent videos, we're going to be talking about the nervous system, where we're going to discuss about the brain. Now, the brain is actually divided into 3 main parts. We have the forebrain, we have the midbrain, and then we have the hindbrain. Now, at the midbrain, we have the pineal body, we have the optic lobe, and then we have the pituitary gland. The optic lobe is actually responsible for vision and sight. And then pituitary gland has its own function, which we're going to be looking at. But before we go into looking at the functions of the pituitary glands, let's see some of the hormones that are being secreted or produced by the pituitary gland. Now, hormones that are being produced by pituitary gland, we have the prolactin, we have oxytocin, we have ADH. ADH simply means antidiuretic hormone. We have the somatotropins, and then we have the tropic hormone, which is mostly the pituitary gland. Now, what are the functions of the pituitary gland? Number 1, the pituitary gland stimulates and controls milk production. It controls milk production. That's the prolactin. Now, number 2, it controls the flow of milk. Now, that has to do with the oxytocin. So the oxytocin is responsible for the flow of milk in a female mammal. Number 3, it stimulates the kidney tubules to reabsorb water, and that is the ADH. If you check some of our videos under the kidney, we mentioned something like this during urine formation. So we said that it stimulates the kidney to reabsorb water. And then we also have it promotes growth of bones and muscles, promotes growth of bones and muscles. And that tells us that the pituitary gland is a growth hormone producing gland, a growth hormone producing gland. So it is growth oriented. And then the last one, number 5, it controls other endocrine glands. And because of this, the pituitary gland can be referred to as the master gland. Pituitary gland is the master gland because it controls every other endocrine gland in the body. So the pituitary gland is a master gland. Effects of oversecretion. Now, when there is an oversecretion of pituitary the hormones, for instance, let's take a look at the somatotropins. In children, if there is oversecretion, it results in gigantism. So the child becomes taller than usual. And then in adults, it results in what we call the acromegaly. The acromegaly. Now, acromegaly is simply an increase in the size of the hands, increase in the size of the feet, and also possibly increase in the size of the bodies. Okay? Now, look at the effects of under-secretion. effects of under-secretion as it relates to production of hormones, or as it relates to the growth hormone, which is the somatotropins. And in children, it leads to dwarfism. It leads to dwarfism. So, and dwarfism is simply retarded growth. Retarded growth. Number 2, we have the thyroid gland. Now, the thyroid gland is actually located at the neck region. It's located at the neck region. And then we have the hormones. The hormone produced by the thyroid gland is called thyroxine. Thyroxine. Now, look at the functions of the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland regulates the rate of metabolism during respiration. Now, again, it regulates or controls metamorphosis in tadpoles. Please don't forget this. In tadpoles. So it controls metamorphosis, that's thyroxine, in tadpoles. It also stimulates mental and physical growth and development. Mental, physical growth and development. It simply means that thyroxine is also another example of a growth hormone. We've seen 2 growth hormones. First one was produced by the pituitary gland, called what? The somatotropins. While the second one is produced by the thyroid gland, called what? Thyroxine. Now let's take a look at effects of over-secretion. Number 1, it leads to gigantism. We've seen what gigantism is. We said the child becomes, or the person becomes taller than usual, or bigger than usual, okay, or increased in height than usual, in size than usual. Number 2 is it leads to hyperactivity. The person, mostly a child, is always very active, hyperactive. And number 3, it leads to increase in metabolic rate. Number 4, increased heartbeat. That is in terms of thyroxine. And then number 5, it leads to loss of weight. Now, effects of under-secretion. Now, in over-secretion, we said it causes hyperactivity. But if there is under-secretion, it leads to sluggishness. The child is always, or the person is always sluggish, needs a push to do some things and all that. So that is, most times, it is as a result of under-secretion of thyroxine. Next is it leads to reduced heartbeat. Reduced heartbeat. Next, it leads to cretinism. Another name for dwarfism is cretinism. It also leads to decrease in metabolic rates, and it also leads to overweight or obesity. Remember, we said that in over-secretion, we said it leads to loss of weight. But in under-secretion, it leads to obesity. Number 3 is the parathyroid gland. Now, in terms of location, the parathyroid gland is actually located at the neck, near the thyroid gland, still at the neck. And it produces a hormone called parathormone. Parathormone. Now, what is the function? The major function of the parathormone is to control the levels of calcium content in the blood. Calcium content in the blood. And of course, you know, one of the major functions of calcium is to what? For strong bones and teeth. Now, some of the effects of over-secretion of parathormone is that it causes the softening of bones, and it brings about increased loss of phosphate. That's in over-secretion. Okay? And then it leads to, for under-secretion, it leads to muscle spasm and possibly death. Moving ahead, we have number 4, which is the pancreas. Now, the pancreas is located close to the liver at the loop of the duodenum. You can see it on the screen. It's very close. It's yellow in color, as you can see on the screen there. So it produces the hormone called insulin and glucagon. If you check our video on liver, that's regulation of internal environment, where we talked about the liver, We made one, the first thing we discussed on functions of the liver is that it helps to regulate blood sugar. And one of the things we said about blood sugar is that the liver converts excess glucose in the blood to glycogen. And it does that with the help or aid of insulin, which is a hormone that is produced by the pancreas. And then if the body needs sugar, needs glucose, or needs energy, the liver converts glycogen back into glucose, which is then broken down by aerobic respiration in order to release energy. But it is done through the help of a hormone called glucagon. Now, glucagon is also produced by the pancreas. So you see that the pancreas plays a very major role in regulation of blood sugar. So it produces those two. We also have functions. Now, insulin converts glucose to glycogen and also to the liver and all that. We have mentioned that. Effects of oversecretion. Effects of oversecretion. Now, when there is an oversecretion of insulin or glucagon, it leads to a fall in blood sugar. Leads to a fall in blood sugar because the insulin that are there will be so much that there will be too much conversion. So every little blood sugar will be converted into glycogen and then stored, and which is actually not good if the blood sugar of a person is very, very low. It can also lead to incessant hunger. But when there is an under-secretion, it can cause diabetes mellitus because there are no, what we call it, there are no insulin or, yes, there is no insulin to assist or aid the, organism, to assist or aid the body in converting glucose into glycogen. So there is much glucose or much blood sugar, or there's much sugar in the blood. It also leads to less appetite and great thirst. So these are some of the effects of under-secretions. Number 5, we have the adrenal gland. Adrenal gland. Now, the adrenal gland is located at the top of the kidney. See it at the top of the kidney. The kidney is being shaped. And then it secretes the hormone we call adrenaline. Now, another name for adrenaline is called emergency hormone. It's called the emergency hormone. Now, what are some of the functions of the adrenal hormone? We have adrenaline, rather. We have, number 1 is that it causes or brings about increased heartbeat and respiration. Increased heartbeat. Number 2, it leads to dilation of the spupules. The pupils become dilated. Number 3, it is a hormone that is actually associated with fear and anxiety. Number 4, it prepares the body for emergency. Number 5, it brings about shivering during cold conditions, okay? When the body is cold, it brings about shivering. Now, let's take a look at effects of oversecretion. When there is an oversecretion, what actually takes place or what actually happens? Number 1, it increases excitement and over-anxiety. Over-anxiety, that is when it is released in excess. It also leads to heavy breathing. It also leads to profuse sweating. The person sweats a lot. That is when this thing happens. When adrenaline is actually released. You can also bear with me when someone is so anxious, when the person is, there is so much anxiety. Probably you were called to give a speech before a huge audience, and the crowd is so huge that for you to handle the mic, your hands are shaking and all that. You start seeing that you start sweating profusely. Okay? Now, that thing that actually makes you to start sweating and your hands start shaking is actually the release of adrenaline. So it is oversecretion that is actually taking place. Now, let's take a look at effects of under-secretion. For under-secretion, it leads to low heartbeat, so the heart doesn't beat much. And it also brings about slow response to emergency. And then it leads to low blood pressure. So these are some of the effects of under-secretion. And then lastly, in animal hormones, we have the gonads. The gonads. Now, the gonads are located in 2 places. In males, it is located at the scrotum, okay, close to the testis, or the testis rather. And then in the females, it's located at the ovaries or within the ovaries. Now, the hormones that are being produced by these two gonads, that the male gonad and the female gonads, is testosterone for males, and then females is the progesterone and estrogen. Progesterone and estrogen. While in male, it is referred to as the testosterone. Okay? Now, functions. Now, in males, or in fact, in both male and female, the hormones that are being produced by these gonads helps to stimulate the appearance of secondary sexual characteristics or character in both male and female at puberty. You know, most of those secondary characteristics in terms of males, you have growing of hairs on the face. We also have an armpit and then the pubic regions. You also have broadened chest and all that. You have deep voice, cracked voice, and all that. These are secondary sexual characteristics that occur in males and also that of the females. And number two function is stimulates the production of male and female gamete. The male gamete is called the spermatozoa, and the female gamete is called the egg. And then number three, it prepares the uterus for the attachment of an embryo. That is, if the egg is fertilized. If the egg is fertilized, during the hormones actually prepares the uterus for implantation. But if the eggs are not fertilized, the eggs dissociates and then comes out as a flow of blood, and which they see as their monthly cycle. Okay, so these are some of the functions of the hormones produced by the male and the female gonads. Now, what are the effects of oversecretion? For oversecretion, it results in excessive development of sexual organs and secondary sexual characteristics in both male and female. Another one again, it leads to abnormal urge for sex, okay, for biological intimacy in both male and female. That is when the person in question has over-secretion. Then also another effect of under-secretion. For under-secretion, it leads to underdevelopment of sexual organs in both male and female. And number two, it leads to low urge for sex in both male and female. All right? So these are the things you need to take note of under animal hormones. And very quickly, before we wrap up this class, let's talk about plant hormones. Now, plants also has their own hormones, which are chemical substances produced in small quantities and also sent to target areas, and they also bring about certain changes or carry out several activities on those organs. Now, we have several of them. We have auxins, we have gibberellins, we have cytokinins, we have abscisic acid, ethene gas, and phloregens. Now, in terms of mammals, we have growth-stimulating hormones. Now, growth-stimulating hormones are the somatotropins produced by the pituitary gland, and then we have the thyroxine produced by the thyroid gland. So these are two main growth hormones. But in terms of plants, we also have growth hormones, and they are the auxins, gibberellins, and the cytokinins. Okay, while growth inhibitors, not promoters, are the abscisic acid, the ethene gas, and the phloregens. Okay, so let's just take a look at them very briefly, starting with auxins. Now, where are auxins produced? Now, auxin is produced at the apice of shoots, and it moves across short distance by diffusion and longer distance by the phloem. Of course, the phloem is actually a vascular tissue, or you can call them a connective tissue that transports manufactured food from the leaves to the roots and other parts of the body. So it can also transport auxins if they are moving through a long distance. Now, what are the functions of auxins? Number one, it causes the shoot of plants to grow fast. It makes the shoots of plants to grow fast. Number two, it ensures the growth of plants at the apices. Number three, it initiates flowering in plants. Remember, number one, we said it causes the shoots of plants to grow fast. So it's a growth hormone. Number four, it ensures fruits are retained in plants after formation. Number five, it breaks what we call seed dormancy. Now, seed dormancy is a period of inactivity in a leaf where a leaf is no longer active. Okay, it's not active, it is dormant. All right, and one of the ways to break that dormancy so that the leaf can be active and start germinating when you plant it in a soil is by applying auxins to it. Another thing again, another function of auxin is that it induces fruit ripening and also induces root formation. Next is gibberellins. Remember I told you that the gibberellins, they are also growth stimulating hormones in plants. Now, the gibberellins are produced in young foliage leaves and roots, apices of roots and stems, as well as in embryos. We also have their functions. Number one, it controls growth in plants. It also induces the production of fruits without fertilization, that is parthenocapy. And then it also helps to break seed dormancy. And look at it again, it also stimulates growth of roots. Look at it again, it stimulates stem elongation. These are all different aspects of growth. And the last one again, it promotes development of flowers. So you see that gibberellins is also another example of a growth hormone in plants. Then we also have the cytokinins. The cytokinins is also another growth hormone in plants. Now, the cytokinins are produced in the roots, they are produced in the embryos, they are also produced in the fruits that are actively undergoing growth. And then what are their functions? Number one, now cytokinins stimulate development of roots. That's also a growth aspect. It slows down aging in plants. It breaks seed dormancy. It also promotes axillary bud growth in plants. So it means it is also a growth hormone. It also increases resistance of some plants to harmful effects, such as viral infection and low temperature. Okay? Then we also have abscisic acid. We have abscisic acid. Now, in terms of production, abscisic acid is produced in green leaves. It's also produced in the fruits and also at the root caps. Now, listen, abscisic acid is not a growth hormone, but a growth inhibitor. It is not a growth hormone, it is a growth inhibitor. In fact, a better way to get the functions of abscisic acid is to look at the functions of the growth hormone. It opposes it. So it is an opposer to the functions of growth hormones. Now look at their functions. Instead of inducing the growth of buds, it now suppresses the growth of buds. Instead of breaking seed dormancy, it now induces seed dormancy. Instead of slowing down aging, it rather brings about aging of leaves. So you can see it's opposing the functions of the growth hormones. And then number four, it controls opening and closing of the stomata, and also it inhibits mitosis in vascular cambium. But please note that abscisic acid is an inhibitor, mostly a growth inhibitor. Now, the next one we're going to be looking as plant hormone is the ethene gas. Now, if you look at the site where it is being produced, it is produced in the leaves, it is produced in the stems and young fruits. Now, what are the functions of ethene gas? Number one, it inhibits stem elongation. Now, you can see that the ethene gas, like the abscisic acid, is a growth inhibitor. So it inhibits stem elongation. It accelerates aging of plants. It hastens the ripening of fruits. It retards lateral bud development. So it is also a growth inhibitor, a growth inhibitor. Now, the next one and the last one we're looking at is the phloregenes. Now, the phloregenes are actually found in flowers. You can also find them in fruits of plants. But the major function of the phloregenes is to control the initiation of flowers in a plant. They control the initiation of flowers in a plant. Now, in conclusion, growth hormones are, we have the auxins, we have the gibberellins, and then we have the cytokinins. While growth inhibitors, we have the abscisic acid, and then we have the ethane gas. So please take note, these are the major aspects of plant hormone. And before we go, I would like us to look at one or two questions using the ExamGuide app. Now, quickly, we'll pick few questions because I think we have a whole lot of questions for under this particular topic on hormones. You can see up to 31 questions. 31 questions. So let's pick questions where we can rush through very quickly. Look at this question. They said, which of the following actions is not a function of adrenaline? It is not a function of adrenaline. A says muscular power and resistance to fatigue. B says the rate of the heartbeat. C says body blood sugar by conversion of liver glycogen into body blood sugar by conversion of liver glycogen into glucose. The passage of food. The correct answer is that the rate of heartbeat. It increases the rate of heartbeat. It doesn't increase body blood sugar. No, adrenaline does not increase blood sugar. It doesn't increase muscular power. It doesn't increase the passage of food, but it increases the rate of heartbeat. And then they said adrenaline is considered as hormone for fright and flight because it plays a role. A says it plays a role in the pH balance of the body fluid. No. B says it controls the fluid content of the body. C says it prepares the body for action. And D says is used in protein metabolism. The correct answer here is C. It prepares the body for action. If you check what we said about adrenaline, I said it prepares the body for emergency. Emergency is an action, a prompt action. And then question 16, iodine is needed by a patient suffering from a malfunctioning of, the correct answer is thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is found at the neck. If you check some of our videos, deficiency of iodine causes what we call goiter. Okay, a thyroid goiter. Now that thyroid goiter happens at the neck. So one of the ways to prevent goiter is to shoot iodine radiations or rays. And so iodine is actually needed from a person suffering from malnutrition. It's at the goiter. Thyroid gland. Then the last one, which of the following statement is not true about hormones? Their responses are voluntary. They may affect more than one target organs. They are chemical messengers in animals. They are transported by the blood to the target organs. All of them are all correct except A. They are never voluntary. That means you can't control them at will. You can't control the responses of hormones. Let me pick one more. They said, which of the following diseases results from the deficiency of insulin? So when there is insulin deficiency, it doesn't bring about beriberi. Deficiency of vitamin B brings about the beriberi. Deficiency of vitamin the iodine rather, brings about goiter. Okay. Then also deficiency under secretion of growth hormone brings about cretinism, which is dwarfism. But the deficiency of insulin brings about diabetes. So this is where we're going to call it a wrap-up. I will advise and encourage you to actually finish up the whole questions, following what we have studied today. I'll see you in our next videos. Bye for now.